Hey guys, welcome to today's Daily Dose of Awesome, your 15 minutes of motivation, education, and inspiration. My name is Vitaly Grinblat, and I am your host for today. And today our topic is how to kick failure in the teeth. And so this is a very important topic. And the reason it's so important is because no success can be without failure, right? If you have success, you're going to have failure. Right? You're just going to have to, this is something that you're going to have to deal with. But I say, why deal with it when you can just kick it in the teeth and get out of your way? Now, the thing is that your ability to succeed in life is going to be in direct proportion to how much pain and failure and obstacles you can endure along the way, because they are not going to stop. They are going to come back over and over and over again. And so that's what I want to talk about today, because bad things, unfair things, are going to happen to all of us. They're going to happen on a daily basis. They're going to happen whether you're new in business, whether this is your first, your second year, or whether this is your 20th year in business. Now, I used to think that as time goes on and as you get better, you're going to, things are going to get easier. And Jim Rohn has a great quote. He says, "Don't wish for things to get easier. Wish you were better." And that's the whole, that's your goal, is to get better so that you can go forward and you can overcome these obstacle, challenges, problems. Now, I don't like to say the word problems. In fact, I used to, if you guys are familiar, sorry about the noise, suddenly there's something going on outside, and my dog is panicking a little bit. But if you guys are familiar with who Tom Hopkins is, he's a famous sales trainer, and I used to study Tom for many, many years. And I used to read his books. Actually, I read all his books. I went to all of his boot camps. And one thing that he taught in his boot camps is, he taught many different things, but one thing that he taught is be very careful of the kind of words you use with your prospects and with your potential customers. And there were words that he basically ingrained in us that we shouldn't use. One of these words was problem. Don't ever say problem. And the reason you don't want to say this word to your customer is because it'll bring up a picture of their problems. It'll make them think of their problems. So instead, use the word challenges, obstacles, setbacks, defeats. And there were a lot of other words. Like, for example, if you're sitting down with somebody and instead of asking them to sign the paperwork, you ask them to okay, approve, endorse, authorize. You never want to say the word deal, because that always kind of brings up an image of a used car salesman. You want to say the word presentation, and so on and so forth. And why did I bring that up? Oh, problem. So I don't care whether you call it a problem, a challenge, an issue. Every single day, you are going to be faced with one. Okay? So the key is how you're going to deal with it. And if you're an entrepreneur, and everybody on this, everybody watching this is an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to deal with them. You're going to come across issues every single day. That's what you signed up for. And so the faster you learn how to overcome them and deal with them, is what we're going to talk about today, the quicker you're going to be able to succeed in life. So with that, I want to talk about 5 powerful ways to overcome, and not just overcome, but kick your failures and all the stuff that happens to you in the teeth and get it out of the way. And the first one is to reframe how you look at problems and how you look at challenges and how you look at failure. Because what happens is when kids go to school, when we all go to school, right, went to school, you would get a bad grade. And when you get a bad grade, it doesn't feel good, right? And there's something called fail, right? So if you get an F, you fail the test, or if you get an E, you fail the class or the test or whatever. And so we associate failure with pain. And in life, and so of course when you're a child, I'm a parent of 3, we don't want our kids to do bad in school, but it's a process, it's a learning process. And so if you do bad on a test, it doesn't mean you're a failure. All that means is that you need to learn the subject a little bit better, and so you can do better next time, right? That's all it means. It's feedback. And so if you reframe, and of course schools don't teach that, but if you reframe how you look at failure and how you look at these obstacles as feedback, it's going to become a lot easier for you to deal with them. So for example, let's say you're launching a Facebook ad campaign, if you're advertising on Facebook. And so for example, I recently launched several campaigns, and I quickly spent $100 on several campaigns, and they didn't produce what I wanted them to produce. Now, I'm totally okay with it, because I already know that it's feedback. But most people, they spend money on a Facebook campaign or any kind of advertising campaign, and when it doesn't go their way, they immediately think, oh, I failed, it didn't work. It's not that it didn't work. You're getting feedback. You're getting data. Because I learned a long time ago that when you're buying traffic, when you're advertising, when you're spending money on marketing and advertising, what you're really doing is you're buying data. And so you're getting feedback, you're getting information that you can use so that you can tweak your campaigns and make them better on the next go around. And so when you start reframing failure as feedback, and you start looking at failure as feedback, it doesn't hurt as much. Now, it's still a little bit painful when you lose money, right? It still is not fun when things don't go your way, but it's not as painful. Another example is biggest direct mail companies and direct marketing companies out there. Most people don't know, but 80 to 90% of the products and of the projects and ideas that they launch fail. 80 to 90%. Some of the biggest marketing companies out there. Now, you would think that biggest companies who do hundreds of millions of dollars, they have great copywriters, they have the best marketing teams, and they have all this experience, and so they know what works, and yet 80 to 90% of the time they launch something and it doesn't work. Why is that? Because that's how it is. Okay, that's just part of the marketing game, and they're okay with it. And so if biggest companies in the world have an 80 to 90% failure ratio, why would a new marketer think that they were any better than these guys? But at the same time, the 10 or 20% that they win so big that it dwarfs all the other failures. Okay, so again, it's just feedback. Okay, and that's how you have to look at it. The second thing is, don't take it personally. Okay, the best way I can explain it is, don't be married to your idea or to your product. It's easy to get attached to something that you've put a lot of time and effort into. And it's not fun when it doesn't go your way. It's not fun when all of a sudden, you spend days, weeks, possibly even months launching something, and then you come across a stumbling block. Maybe it's something that's not even your fault, and the whole thing falls through. It's no fun. But if you take it personally, it doesn't help you. Okay? You have to look at it as part of the process. You have to look at failure and setbacks and the feedback that you receive as part of the process. And so, for example, let's say you're going to take a road trip. I'll give you an example from my own life. For the last 2 years, my family and I, we've been going to Florida. I live in Michigan, and we've been going to Florida where we've been driving, which is crazy because it's a 2-day drive. And the reason we do it is because I got 3 kids, and we go there for an extended period of time, a month to 6 weeks. And so this year we're not doing it. We're flying. From this point on, we're flying. Kids are old enough now. But last 2 years we drove. So last year we're driving, and the I-275, which is the freeway that runs not too far from my house, which connects me to I-75, which takes me out of state and all the way to Florida, has been under some major repairs. And there was a big detour because they closed off a big section of the highway, 5 miles, and we left early in the morning, and we lost an hour. Okay. Now, when we hit that detour, when we hit that, when we came to the highway and it was closed, I didn't say to myself, I better turn around. We're going to go home. We're just not going to make it to Florida now, right? I didn't say that. We took a detour. Yes, we lost an hour, but we went around and we got to our destination. In fact, on the way to Florida, every single time, if you travel in the summer, there's always going to be road construction. You might hit a delay. You might even have to do a detour. You might have to get off the highway and take another route. And so when you go on a short journey to a store, that's probably not going to happen. When you go on a long drive, like from Michigan to Florida, that's going to happen. And so when you're going after something big in life, just expect the fact that there are going to be detours, right? So don't take that personally. It's not against you. It's just part of the process. And when you start looking at it that way, it makes it a lot easier. So the third thing is, don't dwell too much on it. You can't dwell too much on the fact that something didn't go your way. Now, it's okay to feel down. It's normal. In fact, when people say don't take rejection or failure personally, it's kind of hard not to. And some people that say, oh, nothing can faze me. I got thick skin. Nothing bothers me. I don't know. I think there's something wrong with these people because If you're human, it's going to bother you. If you invested your time and effort into somebody or something, into a project, and you're passionate about it, and it didn't go your way, it's not going to be pleasant, right? So it's okay to have that pity party, but get over it quickly. Don't dwell too much on it. When I launched my first business before I got into direct sales, when I was 17 years old. The business, it was a jewelry business. My friend at the time, he was a few years older than me. He was involved in jewelry. He got me a part-time job at a jewelry factory. I worked there, then I got out of that job. I went to another jewelry job, and after about a year, by the time I was 17 years old, him and I, we sat down, we said, you know what, we're good enough now, we can own our own business, or run our own business. So we kept our jobs, daytime jobs, and we borrowed money. He didn't have money, I didn't have money, but I borrowed money, which we both, of course, had to repay. I borrowed money, and we opened up a little shop, and we bought some equipment. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was a few $1,000s. And so we opened up that shop, and I quickly learned, by the way, that just because you know how to do something, that doesn't mean business is just going to come your way. You have to sell it. And I used to do all kinds of stuff. I used to get dressed up, get in my car, drive around town at 17 years old, go to different jewelry stores, show them my ring, and tell them, this is how I set diamonds. If you guys have a job, we can do that for you if you have repairs. And so anyway, after about a year of that, we were pretty much out of business. We were out of cash. We had to pay the rent on the little shop that we had. We still had to pay off the equipment that we bought because it was foolish. We bought all new equipment. We just made every mistake in the book, of course. But the point of the story is that when we closed shop, we still owed some money. It wasn't a lot. It was a couple $1,000s. We still owed money on the equipment. We sold off the equipment for probably 25% of what we paid for it. And so because we still owed money on it, I had to repay it back. Now, he paid me for a few months, and then one day he stopped. So by that time, I was about 19 years old, 18 and a half, 19 years old, and I'm out of business. Okay, so my first business ended up being a failure, and my friend and who's also my business partner, stiffed me. Okay, he ended up owing me like about $1,000, which is not a whole lot of money right now to me, but it was a lot of money back then, and especially when you're 18 years old and it's your friend and it's your business partner. And I dwelled on that for a long time. Okay, I really, because it's not fun. It's painful, right? And it's normal that it's painful. Until one day I heard this story from Jim Rohn, because by that time I got into direct sales and I started listening to all this stuff, and I listened to Jim Rohn, and he told a story about the frog and the scorpion. And the story went like this, if you guys know, or maybe you don't know, that the frog wanted to cross the river, and the scorpion wanted to cross the river too. So he said, I'll jump on your back if you help me cross the river. And Frog said, no way, because you're going to sting me. And he said, I'm not going to sting you, because if I sting you, we'll both drown. And so Frog said, yeah, that makes sense. So the scorpion jumped on his back, and they went across the river, and about halfway through, sure enough, the scorpion stings the frog. The frog is now drowning, and he comes up for the last breath of air, and he says, why? Why did you do that? Why did you sting me? Now we're both going to drown. And the scorpion says, because I'm a scorpion. And so when I heard that, probably not the first time, but like fifth or eighth time, it hit me. That guy, my friend, my old ex-friend, ex-partner, he's a scorpion. I mean, that's just how he is. And I'm actually glad that all this happened, because what if the business actually took off? Now, he still would have been like that, but it could have happened 5 years or 10 years down the road, and it could have cost me not $1,000, but who knows how much, maybe a couple more zeros, right? And would have been a lot more painful. So I started looking at it as, you know what, I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm glad that happened. And so that's how you have to look at these things. You have to look for what you can get out of it, for what the lesson is, no matter how painful it is. And so that was the third thing. The fourth thing is, which kind of leads me, but that story led me to the fourth thing, is you got to ask the $1 million question. The $1 million question is, what can I learn from that? What can I learn from this experience, from this failure? So let's go back to Facebook ads, for example. When you're running traffic on Facebook, if you're advertising on Facebook, you're spending money on these campaigns and you're testing. That's all you're doing. You're buying data and you're testing. And so after you run your test, it doesn't matter whether you made money, whether you didn't make money. What you need to do is you need to sit down and evaluate and look at, what can I learn from this data? Am I getting clicks? If I'm not getting clicks, then my ad is not good enough. If I am getting clicks, then my ad is good. Are these clicks converting to leads? If they're not converting to leads, then, well, the ad is good. So I'm saying the right things, but maybe the landing page is not good. if I'm getting the leads, then the landing page is good, the ad is good. But if I'm not getting the sales, then maybe it's the offer, maybe it's my follow-up. And so the idea is that you want to look for the lesson. And it's not always fun, right? Napoleon Hill, what did he say? That within every adversity, there's a seed of equal or greater benefit. And sometimes it's hard to find that seed. Sometimes you really have to look for it, but it's in there. Because everything is a learning experience. So every time, so if you're buying Facebook traffic, if you're buying traffic, look at it as a learning experience. Look at it as, look at each campaign you run as, what can I learn from that, no matter what happens, and then try to get better. I invested in some real estate a few years ago, and I did it because of the hype, because of everything was going up and everything was going well, and it came from a recommendation from somebody that I trusted and respected, and I thought that they would steer me the right way. And it was not his fault that the market crashed, but the market crashed and everything kind of caved in. Everything, as you guys know, collapsed, and I got caught up with that with my real estate deal. And in fact, it went so bad that the builder he declared bankruptcy, and then he killed his wife and went to prison. And so we're stuck with this lot. Actually, many people were stuck with their lots, and I ended up losing tens of thousands of dollars on it. It became completely worthless. I still owed money on it. I lost it in foreclosure, lost all this money, lost credit. It was painful, right? It's a learning experience. So I didn't just sit down and say, well, let's see, that's all right, all this stuff happened. What can I learn from it? Where's the lesson? Of course, I didn't do that immediately. I was pretty upset. I was pissed. But eventually, I had to come to my senses and say, okay, what can I learn from that? There's nothing I can do. I can't get that money back. There's nothing I can do. What can I learn from that? Well, what I can learn from that is that next time, do your due diligence, right? Invest in something that you understand, or don't invest at all. Now, there's always going to be some sort of risk. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're starting a business, if you're investing in a business, if you're investing in real estate or stock market or whatever, there's always going to be some level of risk. But you can minimize the risk, right, with due diligence and with experience, and by doing your homework. Make sense? So that was a costly and painful lesson, but nevertheless, it was a lesson. Now, it could have been worse, right? I mean, I know people that have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and some lost millions of dollars. So I'm glad I wasn't in that boat. So it's a lesson, right? What's the $1 million lesson? So that was number 4. And then number 5 is you got to move on to the next idea and the next project quickly, right? You got to be fast and you got to act quick. You got to go through these stumbling blocks really, really fast. So back to the big company, the companies that launch products, and 80-90% of them, these products or these ideas, don't go well, right? They fail. They either break even or they lose them money. But guess what? The 10 or the 20%, they do really well. However, if they don't go fast enough to get to those 10 or 20%, then it's never gonna happen. They're never gonna capitalize on it. So you got to go through these failures quickly, right? You got to go through all that feedback and all those lessons and obstacles and whatever you want to call them. You got to go through it quickly so that you can get to the good stuff. Because I promise you, what's going to happen is eventually you will get to the good stuff. Not every Facebook campaign you're going to launch is going to be profitable, right? But the quicker you can go through the ones that are not, and the quicker you can get that data and learn what you need to learn, the faster you're going to get to the ones that are. And so you need to move quickly. But if you sit there for weeks and months trying to figure it out and trying to understand why somebody doesn't, why this person didn't show up, or why did this campaign fail, or why this happened, or why did, Facebook shut down my account, or why did the merchant, there's all kinds of stuff that happens, right? Depending on your business and there's stuff that happens all the time, but don't dwell on it, move on to the next idea quickly. And so, you have a choice, right? You have a choice. You can look at all this stuff as either stumbling blocks, as failures, as setbacks, or you can look at them as something that you can just plow through and move on into something as part of the process and get over it quickly, right? And it's a choice, right? It's a choice. And so I want to end with this. Michael Jordan, you guys probably know that he has a famous commercial, Nike commercial, where he says, I failed my entire life. I failed over and over and over and over and over again, but that is why I succeed. Right? So with that, I want to thank you. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you learned some ways that you can get over your failures and disappointments quicker. And thanks for tuning in. I appreciate being here. I appreciate every one of you. Thanks for all your comments, guys. And we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.